Welcome back to KudosKuber. Today, we're turning our attention to the Eurozone and some interesting trends in the banking sector. From the impact of interest rate changes to new government policies, there's a lot to unpack. Part 2. Focus on Eurozone banking and loan trends.
Okay.
So, by making banks hold more in reserve, they have less money to lend out.
So it slows things down a bit
Yeah, you could say it's like tapping the brakes on the economy a little.
to prevent things from overheating.
Exactly. But of course, there's always a trade-off, right?
What's the downside?
Well, one immediate impact is that it could squeeze banks' profits.
How so?
Well, they have less money to lend out, which means less money they can earn interest on.
Oh, right. I see.
One check lender, Moneta Money Bank, they actually expect their net interest income to take a hit,
That makes sense. So the central bank has a tough balancing act.
for sure. They want to control inflation, but they also don't want to cripple the banks.
Yeah, tough spot. It's amazing how much power central banks have, though, when you think about it.
They really do. They play such a crucial role in shaping the financial landscape.
Yeah, and it's not just about, interest rates and reserve requirements.
Right.
They also have to deal with regulating the banking sector.
Keeping everything stable.
And even, supporting innovation, like with fintech.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of fintech, we haven't even talked about that yet. How are banks handling the explosion of, digital payment platforms and online lenders?
Oh, that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
It's a rapidly changing landscape.
for sure.
And banks are really having to adapt to stay relevant.
It's like a survival of the fittest situation, right?
Yeah. The banks that are slow to adapt, they risk falling behind.
So what does it take to be a fit bank in this environment? Is it all about embracing technology?
Well, technology is a big part of it, for sure. Banks need to be able to offer those seamless digital experiences.
Okay.
Keep up with things like mobile banking, AI, data analytics.
Yeah, it's like they almost have to become tech companies themselves.
In a way, yes. But it's not just about the tech itself. It's about using it in a way that creates real value for customers.
So things like personalized services,
Exactly.
better fraud detection, faster transactions.
Yeah, all of that. But let's not forget about the human element, too.
Right.
People still want trust and good relationships when it comes to their money.
So it's about finding that balance between, high tech and high touch.
Precisely.
It makes you wonder, though, are we headed toward a future where we don't even have bank branches anymore?
It's possible.
Like, will we all be managing our money just through our phones and, smart watches?
We are seeing a trend towards branch closures
Yeah.
as more and more banking moves online. But I don't think branches will disappear entirely.
Okay.
There will always be people who, prefer face-to-face interaction
Sure.
or need help with complex stuff.
Right. So maybe branches will become more specialized, like financial advice centers rather than just places to do transactions.
That's a really interesting thought. I think that could be a way for banks to really stand out.
Yeah, offer something unique.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about regulation. That plays a big role too.
Right. Governments and central banks have a lot of say in how this all evolves.
They do. We're already seeing so much happening with things like fintech regulation, open banking, data privacy.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is. But it's all shaping the future of banking for both traditional banks and new companies.
So it's a complex and constantly changing landscape.
Definitely.
But one thing's for sure.
What's that?
It's never boring.
I think that's a great way to put it. And, before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Ooh, I like a good cliffhanger. What is it?
Well, we've talked a lot about how banks are adapting to external pressures.
Right, like technology and regulation.
Exactly. But what about internal challenges?
Internal, like
Things like organizational culture, talent management, even their own legacy systems.
That's a good point. It's easy to overlook the stuff happening inside.
Right. Sometimes the biggest obstacles to progress are actually within the organization itself.
And that's what we'll be talking about when we come back after the break.
Exactly. Sometimes those internal roadblocks, they can be the toughest to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's shift gears now and talk about something a little bit different. Romania.
Romania. Interesting choice.
Yeah. It's experiencing really strong loan growth right now.
It is faster than their deposit growth, actually.
Really? Huh, so what's driving that growth?
It's a mix of things, actually. We're seeing a lot of lending to non-residents.
Okay.
Also, a lot of consumer and mortgage lending.
So people buying homes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a significant amount of short-term corporate loans as well.
Interesting. So what does that tell us about Romania's economy, would you say?
Well, it suggests that there's a lot of economic activity happening there.
Okay.
Businesses are investing, people are buying homes. It's a good sign. But it also means that Romanian banks need to be careful.
Careful. Why?
Well, if loan growth outpaces deposit growth for too long,
Yeah.
it could put a strain on their liquidity.
That makes sense. So it's something to watch, but overall a positive sign.
I'd say so.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the Eurozone's interest rate struggles to Sweden's surprising cash concerns and Poland's banking success story.
And a quick look at Romania, too.
Right. It really highlights how diverse the global banking landscape is.
It does. Every country has its own unique set of challenges and opportunities.
And like each country is writing its own chapter.
Exactly.
In this, ever-evolving story of banking.
Liked it.
But as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We've seen how banks are reacting to crises, adapting to new technologies, even playing a role in, tackling climate change.
It's been fascinating.
It has. So what does this tell us about the future of banking? And what does it mean for, you as a consumer, as an investor, as just a citizen of this increasingly complex world?
A great question, one that we should all be thinking about.
Exactly. So keep exploring, keep asking questions.
And keep diving deep.
Until next time.
It really is. And it's something that banks need to be thinking about seriously. It's not just about keeping up with the external changes. It's about building a strong foundation for the future.
So it's like we've been talking about all these external forces buffeting the banking industry, like waves crashing against a ship.
Yeah.
But you're saying that the ship itself, the bank's internal structure and culture, that's what will determine if it survives.
That's a great analogy. It's about being proactive, not just reactive.
Yeah.
It's about shaping your own destiny, not just letting the waves toss you around.
So instead of just riding the waves, banks need to build stronger ships.
Exactly. And that starts from within.
Yeah.
It's about fostering a culture of innovation, encouraging employees to think differently.
Right, to challenge the status quo.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that's tough, though, especially in an industry that's, traditionally been pretty risk-averse.
It definitely takes a conscious effort.
Mm-hmm.
But the banks that can make that shift, they'll be the ones that come out ahead in the long run.
Because ultimately it's about serving the customer better, right?
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. All these internal transformations, they should be focused on creating a better customer experience.
Through more personalized services, faster transactions, just an overall better experience.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that idea of balancing high tech with high touch. Technology is great.
Yeah.
But it has to be used in a way that actually makes things better for people.
Not just replace the human element.
Right.
So are we seeing a shift in that direction? Are banks starting to view technology more as a partner than a threat?
I think so. We're seeing more collaboration between traditional banks and fintech companies.
Oh, interesting.
It's a recognition that the future is likely to be a hybrid one.
Blending the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the Eurozone's interest rate dilemma to Sweden's cash conundrum,
Poland's banking success.
and even a peek into Romania.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. The world of banking is so vast and constantly changing.
Never a dull moment.
That's for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here.
We hope you found it insightful.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the topics that interest you.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. That's it for today's look at the Eurozone banking sector. We've covered a lot of ground, from interest rate impacts to new government policies and loan trends. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to KudosKuber for more in-depth financial analysis.
See you next time.